do do do. Rum bum bum. La da da. Do 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 do. Rum bum 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 bum. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the highlight of human civilization. It's called Coffee with Scott Adams. And if you didn't know, the first part of this show is just a stall until everybody gets here. The sip is not necessarily meant to be the time that you're here, but if you are, it's great. But if you miss the sip, then you got here just in time, because the sip is meant to stall until you get here. But if you'd like to take your experience up to levels that nobody can even understand, all you need for that is a cup or a mug or a glass, a tankard, chalice, a stein, a canteen, jug or flask, a vessel of any kind. Fill it with your favorite liquid. I like coffee. Join me now for the unparalleled pleasure of the dopamine hit of the day, thing that makes everything better. It's called the simultaneous sip. It happens now. Go. Oh, I can see the complaining has begun already. Where's my video, you say? Well, it appears that there is no video yet. Let's see if I'll experiment, at least on locals, there's no video. Let's see if I reboot on the locals and see if that changes it. Yes, it does. So if you're on locals and you don't have video, just close it and reopen it. You'll be fine. Everything's fine. In fact, I'd like to give a little advice. I don't know if you've ever heard this technical advice before, but this might apply to other areas of your life. If something's not working on your device, try restarting it. You'll be amazed. You'll be thanking me forever. Hey, I've got an idea. Why don't I restart that? Yeah. Works every time. All right, well, let's talk about the things. Did you see the video of the meteor that went over Portugal and Spain? It looked like this big streaking thing. I finally got to see a video of something I saw live once. So I don't know if it was 10 or 12 years ago. Yeah, I've told you this story before, but I was walking out. I was in Nevada for something. And I walked out of a store at 6 in the morning or so. And I looked up and I saw this thing that looked like a nuclear attack. It was like green, blue, and goes across the sky. Unfrickin' believable. And I couldn't explain what it looked like to people until this video came out of the one that's over Portugal and Spain. Somebody had their phone they were doing a selfie, and you could see the meteor perfectly behind them. The funny thing is that the person doing the selfie didn't get to see it in person. They're facing the wrong way to see one of the most impressive things that humanity could ever see, a meteor piercing the atmosphere. Well, you're looking the wrong way. When I saw mine, I was ready to cross the street. I just picked up some bagels at a bagel shop early in the morning. And there was a group of, I think, 5 Cal students. They had Cal shirts on. And they were facing the wrong direction. And I got to see one of the greatest things ever. And they were right there at the same time, but they were facing the wrong way. And I said, there was a great meteor. Did you miss it? And they said, what? Meteor? What? So anyway, political commentator for CNN and other places, I guess, Alice Stewart, died suddenly outdoors at age 58. And because we're terrible people, instead of saying the things we should say, such as caring about the family and hoping they're doing well, we're probably going to send around memes about being fully vaccinated, because I guess she was fully vaccinated and she was pro-vax. Now, I saw some people saying, since when do people drop dead if they're not vaccinated? To which I say, when has that not happened? In my entire life, I've been hearing stories of people at every age just suddenly dropping dead. What, is it new? Did it just happen? Now, I don't know if there's more of it. If there's more of it, it's a problem. But when I hear these onesies and twosies, I don't really have that feeling. If she had been vaccinated, a week ago, I might ask more questions. But I would like to remind you that all of our data about everything is unreliable. So I don't know what's true. There's a study showing that hypothermia, meaning getting really cold, uh, can help you with depression because it has anti-inflammatory properties when you freeze yourself. I guess put yourself in cold air or cold water. Now, I don't think I'm the first person to come up with this. I think I've read about it before, but I'm more and more convinced that mental health is a inflammation problem. Do you think that's possible? Maybe not all of it, of course. I don't think it has to do with schizophrenia. But do you think that depression and anxiety and those things could be uh, an all body inflammation that we're not aware of? I feel like it might be. Because if it's true that hypothermia is anti inflammatory and that makes you less depressed, and at the same time, it feels like our food supply is poisoned, maybe it's not entirely the phones that are making us mentally ill. Maybe it's the inflammation from just general living and pollution and bad food and who knows what. Anyway, I'll just put that out there as a possibility. Well, the simulation theory is getting some more attention, the idea that we're all simulated creatures of software. So one of the proponents was on Joe Rogan, so that will automatically get a lot of attention. Rizwan Virik. Yeah, I guess he's got some credentials um, from Stanford and MIT or some other things. Anyway, so he's a serious scientific mind. And he mentions that there are people running experiments now to see if they can prove we're in a simulated environment. Just hold that in your mind for a moment. There are serious scientists trying to devise experiments that would prove we are a simulated environment. Is that wild? What if they do? What if they prove it? Now, I don't offer this as proof, but I say this often. Everything about the reality that we think is our reality would have to be this way if we were a programmed artificial software species. All of the limits that we would observe building a game, such as you can't have unlimited universe, you'd have to have a limited size, etc. It's too coincidental that everything about our real reality only makes sense if we're software, but it wouldn't make sense if we were real. There are a lot of coincidences. So I'm pretty sure we're simulated, but we'll see. Just the fact that it's on Joe Rogan puts it up to a different level. All right. I saw a interesting post by Michael Girdley on X, and he talks about his experience hiring a private chef to cook for his family. 2 days per week, the private chef comes in and prepares a bunch of meals that they can eat for several days until the private chef comes back. Now, now you might say to yourself, Scott, why are you giving us rich people news? We can't use this rich people news. Tell us things that would be applicable to real people, not you rich people with your servants and your private chefs. Well, here's actually the point of the story. He saved money. It cost them less to have a private chef. He actually did the math. It cost him less. Now, part of it has to do with, families today seem to have different diets. You could have one vegan in your family and one with allergies to 5 different things and one who only eats some weird diet. So it's really, really hard to cook for your family, and we're not really good at cooking extra in advance, so you'll have stuff to take out of the freezer. But apparently, if you get the chef, they save you a ton of time, but also money. Now, I'm not going to go so far as to recommend that you do this. I don't think it's quite practical for the average person yet, maybe you have little, um, probably upper middle class would be the starting point for even thinking about it. But I have a larger point, which is our food delivery and preparation is all wrong. Do you know how much money we spend just getting the food into your mouth? The actual growing of the food is reasonably efficient. The part where it gets pulled out of the dirt and delivered to your mouth is so wrong. I mean, every part of that system is just so poorly. And then you got to go to the grocery store. You have to drive to the store like several times a week and carry things home. And you put it in a bag, you put it in a cart, you put it in a bag, you take it out of the bag, you put it in the refrigerator, you take it out of the refrigerator. It's just this insanely wrong process. And I don't think a private chef is going to be the answer, but here's what I think is. I believe that people who live close to each other will start creating private virtual cafeterias. In other words, one of the people in the community will say, all right, I'll just be the house mom and I'll cook for everybody. And you'll say, oh, that's not a bad idea. I might even meet some neighbors that way. I think there's going to be some kind of coordinated food preparation process, maybe with AI, maybe a robot gets involved. But my prediction is this, that the old model of a mom or a dad or together preparing meals for a family is definitely going to go away. It will be maintained, by some groups forever, of course. But as a general theme, it's going to go away from fast food and away from snacking all day, which a lot of families do. And it's going to go toward some kind of community organized food prep thing that will save you money and time. Mike Benz describes why we can't have a wall. And the basic idea, he goes into great details. It's highly convincing. I don't have any doubt that he's right. But basically, he's saying that ever since forever, the United States has been getting into illegal drug business so that we can have a way to move dark money to places that the CIA wants to move it. So if you wanted to buy weapons for a secret war or a revolution that you're trying to foment, you don't want a lot of records of the money moving around. So you get in bed with the criminal elements and you move, tons of cocaine and whatever else, fentanyl, and you can move your money around in the form of drugs. It makes it very compact. But the reason that we don't close the border and that we don't build a wall is that it's coming from inside the house. So I'll tell you this as many times as it takes. We need a wall around our own CIA if you want to stop the drugs. You put the wall around, where is it? Is it Quantico or Langley? Where's the CIA? I always confuse the FBI headquarters with the CIA. But you need to put a wall around them because Mexico is apparently not the problem. I mean, obviously they're part of it. But it seems like the problem is now stopping Mexico. It's stopping something that's coming from inside our country. Now, just to make it more complicated, I've said this before, but every time there's a story that relates to it, I have to say it again. We're not a republic. And we haven't been for maybe ever, I don't know, but a long time. We're basically run by people behind the curtain who do stuff like this. And I'm not so sure it's not the best form of government. I'm completely convinced at this point that the best form of government is a criminal enterprise. They always used to say, well, democracy has its problems. They're really talking about a democratic republic. But when people say democracy has its problems, but nobody's come up with a better system, I say, yeah, they did. The better system is pretending you have a democracy, but actually operating as a criminal entity that's well organized. If it's a well organized criminal entity, everybody makes money. The cartels are doing great. Do you think crime pays? Well, apparently it does for a lot of people. Pays really well. So the United States I think it is best seen as a criminal enterprise that was really good at it for a number of years. And we're in a world where the other big entities are other criminal enterprises. And that's it. We're basically just arguing over turf. But no, there's no moral or ethical superiority. Nothing like that's happening. That's all bullshit. We're just criminal enterprise. Let's see. Boris Johnson had a little video where he was test driving a Tesla with the full self-driving feature. There's a little video of him sitting there and the car's driving itself in LA. And apparently he's totally sold. He's saying that if you experience that, basically you see the future. Now, I'm a Tesla stockholder, small. I mean, I have my little tiny piece. But and I tell you that because I'm gonna say something that I don't understand about the stock. It seems to me, and this is more salient because I'm looking for a car, not immediately, but I'm sort of in that mindset of looking for my next vehicle. When I compare the Tesla option with full self-driving to any other vehicle, it looks like the past. I don't know if I want to squeeze another few years out of driving a car that doesn't have self-driving capability. My brain is having a really hard time committing, some largish amount of money to something that to me looks like the past. Is anybody having that same experience? That the Tesla self-driving is going to very, very quickly make it look like any other car is stupid. And I think it's just experiencing it. So far, the people who have experienced it are pretty sold. Have you heard of anybody going from a Tesla full self-driving car back to a gas engine? I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's a one-way trip. And I don't think that the other self-driving cars are going to be able to compete. I mean, not as well as Musk. So I want to give you these 2 data points and then shake my head about it. Remember, I always tell you that your opinions are assigned to you. So Tesla, and maybe give me a fact check on this. I believe that Tesla is currently at such a dominant position that hasn't quite actualized because it's going to take a while for people to experience the full self-driving. You have to experience it to be sold. I had this experience when I tried an e-bike for the first time. I told you that story. If you hear about e-bikes, you say to yourself, well, that could be interesting. I can see how people would like it. If you try an e-bike, you pull out your wallet. You will just reach for your wallet. You spend 10 seconds on a frickin' e-bike and you're like, okay, never going back. I'm doing this, right? And apparently that's a common experience. I think the full self-driving is going to be that, which once you experience it, it will be almost unthinkable that you wouldn't have it. Because we all have these, use cases where it would be really nice. Have you ever gone on vacation and not wanted to drive in the new place? I have this rule that if I go on vacation and I personally have to drive a vehicle, I'm not on vacation. I'm just a chauffeur. Because I hate driving in unfamiliar places so much that to me that ruins the whole vacation. There's no point in it at all. But imagine if I could go to a place I'd never been, where the rules of the road are all different, and I just get in the car and tell it where to go. Imagine just telling your car, you're in Italy or something. Imagine just telling the car to go, I don't know, to Rome. It just drives to Rome. And then it takes you all the places you want to see and takes you to refill itself. It knows where the superchargers are. Yeah, I don't think there's anything that you can even understand that would feel like that. Now, add that potential to the fact that Tesla's going to have their Tesla robot coming out. And Elon said that the robot business is going to be, I don't know, 10 to 100 times bigger than the car business. How in the world is that stock not going through the roof? Is it entirely a political drag? Now, you're supposed to be pricing stock based on the future. I've never seen a company with a better future. Have you? Like, even when I look at AI and I say, oh, OpenAI is going to be this biggest company ever, I don't really see that they have a moat. I feel like there'll be even the open AIs will be competitive. I mean, they're going to open AI is going to be competing with free, right? Isn't that inevitable? That open AI will be competing with free, and it'll be about as good. It seems to me. But how is anybody going to compete with the Tesla robot or the Tesla self-driving car if Elon's the only one who has that much visual data to train it? I don't know. So I don't want to sound like I'm just being a fanboy about this company because I do own the stock. So keep that in mind. This is not a financial recommendation, not an investment. But why isn't this stock 10 times higher? I don't know. I'm a little confused about what people are seeing that I'm not seeing. But again, I'm biased. Julian Assange, I guess the British courts are going to decide maybe today about whether he would be released to the United States. I guess they want to make sure that there's no chance he would get the death penalty. Do you think he would get the death penalty? Is that even a possibility, you think? It probably is. It certainly it would be on the table. Do you think he'll be released? What's your prediction? My prediction about Assange is that the real story we don't know and we never will. That's what I think. I think the real story is we don't know the real story and we'll never know the real story. So I've been hesitant to weigh in heavily on an opinion because I feel like there are a lot of people in the intelligence community who want him dead. What's that all about? you know, no, I get that he put some of them at risk, so I get that. But is there more to it? I don't know. I feel like, I feel like there's way more to it. So it's hard to have an opinion. But it does make a difference whether he's going to come back under a Biden administration or a Trump. Now, Trump did not do anything useful for Assange. And so doesn't seem to be a Republican versus Democrat problem. It appears it's, coming from our intelligence agencies have a strong opinion. Do you think that Assange has a secret file that would be released if something happens to him? I feel like that's the only reason he's alive, is that he has a secret file that will be released. So it's quite a balancing act he's got here. There's a rumor that Kate Middleton over at the UK, so a former staffer claims that back in December, the end of December, she slipped into a coma after taking sleeping pills, and she was taken away and nobody ever saw her again. Or at least the staff never saw her again. So the rumor is that she died a while ago or that she's in a coma. Now that would kind of make sense with the AI version of her that we saw. But I'm not quite ready to buy this because it sounds to me like maybe an anonymous source. Yeah, basically, this isn't. In my opinion, this is not reliable. But there's something going on. There's something we don't know, but I wouldn't think this is necessarily reliable. All right, I have a question for you. I put this to the locals people, but let's see what the rest of you think. I have two nicknames for Biden. One is President Smallcandy, and the other is Squinty McDemonface. Squinty McDemonface. Because, I've got this... you ever see the story about the mass killer? There'll be a story about a serial killer, Charles Manson kind of thing. And then you look at the picture of the alleged killer, and you'll say to yourself, did nobody see the problem just looking at that person? Can you really tell me that nobody looked at that person's face and said, well, there's a potential killer right there? When I look at Biden's face, I see a face of evil, not just dementia. Sometimes dementia, but other times I just see evil. Now, again, that might be the dementia that just makes him look that way. But how do you not see it? Is it just me? I'm trying to figure out how much is he does look exactly like a demon, and how much of it is I'm so biased that my perceptions have been changed. So in real time, he looks like a demon. And I never really looked at the world that way because I'm not a demon believer. I don't believe in the afterlife. So I don't believe in demons. But why do I see one when I look at him? When I look at Schiff or Jamie Raskin, I actually see demons. And I don't know. Oh, dementia and demon have the similar word. Never thought about that. But do you all see it, or can you see it too? I mean, you're all biased as I am, but do you see it? Do you see something that doesn't look like it looks like he's possessed with a demon? That face doesn't look like a normal face that anybody would make under any situation other than demon possession. Right? How do the Democrats not see that? When Squinty McDemonface gets into his yelling face and his eyes almost totally close, have you seen his eyes go completely dark? I think the reason he closes his eyelids is that the white part of his eyes has disappeared and they've gone completely dark. It just looks demon-like. Anyway, but I don't believe in demons. It just looks like it. Well, Trump's latest rally, he went full stand-up comedian. He did like 5 minutes of impromptu, just comedy, going from one topic to the other. And he's just totally mocking the Biden tiny candy inflation thing. Totally mocking it. And he's just making it a joke. That is exactly right. Right. It is exactly right to make it a joke because we got to mock this stuff out of existence. You can't take it seriously. You have to mock it like the stupidity it is. So I would keep doing that. So Trump's doing great. We've never seen anybody who could do what he did. We've never seen anybody who could do 5 minutes of impromptu comedy without the teleprompter, who was in politics. I'm saying in the comments that it's just light sensitivity. Maybe it's just light sensitivity, but can you explain this to me? In all cases where he's indoors and on camera, sometimes his eyes are wide open, like he's the dopiest guy in the world, like dementia wide open eyes. And then sometimes he's all squinty. It's the same freaking light. It's the same light. It's just indoors. He's literally just indoors, and he can't open his eyes. Yeah, there's something going on. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's meth. All right. Yeah, this is how Trump said it. He said, but Americans are not struggling to make ends meet because they're buying too many Snickers bars. They're struggling because they have the worst, most incompetent, most corrupt president in the history of our country. That's the way to do it. Bring it down to the Snickers bar level to mock him. Good job. All right. Apparently, there's in the 6 key swing states, more people say they'll never vote for Biden than say they'll never vote for Trump. So 51% say there's not really any chance they'd vote for Biden, compared to only 46% who say that about Trump. That's according to New York Times and Siena College poll. So there's that. But here's something that I interpret in the worst possible way. Let's see if you did. So, Trump lawyer John Eastman, and you know that he already had some legal jeopardy for the January 6th stuff. Well, apparently on top of that, and brand new, Phoenix is going to charge him with some crimes related to 2020, and the early indication is he had nothing to do with any of it. Like, he just wasn't involved in their state. So here's how I take it. So he was actually arrested in Phoenix on conspiracy, fraud, forgery, and other felony charges, even though he didn't have any communication with the Arizona electors. Does it sound to you like this is suppressive fire and that the entire plan is to rig the election, but they're making sure you know that if you complain about it, you'll go to jail? I don't know how else to interpret it. The only way I can interpret this is that the Democrats are making damn sure you know that if you complain about another rigged election, you're going to jail. And he's hunted. Yeah. So let's see if there's any other indication of that. Oh, Morning Joe is telling us on, so Joe Scarborough, he says that he gets to talk to the top people in the Biden campaign. You know, not the low-level people like the rest of you are talking to. No, Joe, Morning Joe, he gets to talk to the important people, the people who make the real decisions, the movers, the shakers. And what he tells us is that the people on the inside act like they're holding 4 aces, he says, and they know something we don't know. He speculates that what they know is they're seeing some polling. They've got a lot of money raised. They know that they can use that money to swing the vote. So given all the money that they have and the fact that there's plenty of time left, they're sure that Biden will easily win this race in just the normal way. You know, you campaign better than the other one, spend more money on ads, that sort of thing. Just normal stuff. Let me tell you, I can't think of anything that would be scarier than knowing that the Biden campaign on the inside are supremely confident because they know something we don't know. Because you know what we do know? We do know everything that Joe Scarborough told us, that they raised a lot of money and, they'll try really hard and, elections narrow and all that stuff. We knew that part. But if they're so confident at this point, based on all the polling going against them and still moving in that direction, losing the black vote, and they're still confident they won't lose the vote, but that there's a huge swing toward toward Trump specifically. To me, this looks like the media is getting you ready, telling you that there's a real reason that they could win, but more importantly, signaling that the people on the inside know something you don't know. But we do know about all the stuff he mentioned. That's pretty obvious. To me, this looks like an obvious signal that Scarborough knows they're going to rig the election. That's not an accusation, so I'm not alleging that. I'm saying that's the signal. What are you hearing? Communication is about not just what the person says, but what you're thinking about the person's intentions. That's what allows you to hear it a certain way, because you're assuming they have a certain intention when they say things. To me, it's kind of signaling like they're planning to rig it, and they want to put John Eastman in jail and all the January 6ers so that when they rig it with this weird confidence they have while running a person who's clearly mentally incompetent and behind in the polls and falling. The only way all of these facts make sense is if they've already decided to rig it and there's nothing you can do about it. I don't know how to understand it any other way, this set of facts. Jonathan Turley's having some fun with this story about Biden, who wants to have executive privilege over those her tapes. Those are the tapes in which we have the transcript, and the lawyer, said that he didn't want to prosecute Biden in part because he seemed like a sympathetic old man who was a little confused. And then the Republicans say, really? We have the transcript, but maybe we should hear him in his own words, which I'd love to hear. And I'm going to call these the dementia tapes. For some reason, nobody gave them a name. These are the dementia tapes. People, when you refer to the story, you should say he wants to put executive privilege over the dementia tapes. It's important to brand these things. You got your Watergate, right? You got your various gates. So you need to have a name for it. I'm going to call these the dementia tapes, and Biden wants to keep them under wraps. But here's the funny thing. What exactly is he protecting? This is Charlie's point. We have the transcript. So what he's not protecting is information. If he's not protecting information, what's he protecting? Here's how Charlie says it. He says the invocation of privilege over the audio tapes is so transparently political and cynical that it would make Richard Nixon blush. Biden is not claiming the actual conversation as privileged, only how he sounded and spoke the words. The only thing he thinks is privileged, because that's all there is. Since we know what he said, all that's left is the way he said it. You know, the sort of the mannerism of his delivery. Now, is that something that is presidential executive privilege? I think so. Yeah, I mean, from a legal perspective, I think I actually back Biden on this. By the way, do you? I'm very much in favor of the president having maximum presidential executive powers. So if the sitting president says, "I gave you the transcript, I'd rather you didn't hear the actual mannerism," I would love to hear the mannerism. So as a citizen, I definitely want to hear it. So let me be clear. From a citizen standpoint, definitely want to hear it. But that would apply to a lot of things that are presidential and confidential. So I don't know how he could win this, but I'm just sort of philosophically, I'm in favor of even Biden having a lot of privacy in the job. So you don't have to agree with that, but I would love to see it, and I think the country would be better served if we heard it. But that's presidential. Presidential privilege is a pretty broad tool, so it's not going to make you happy all the time. It does kind of get you back to the GoPro presidency. Do you remember maybe, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago, I talked to you that Naval Ravikant had an article saying we should put a GoPro camera on our presidents whenever they're doing anything that's the work of the people. We just watch it. there should be, it's almost like a body cam for the president. If you put a body cam on a cop because you're not sure what happens when you're not watching, what if you put a body cam on your president? Now, the first thing you're going to say is, but Scott, there's so many like secret things they do that we shouldn't know about. To which I say, maybe they shouldn't do those things. Maybe if you can't say out loud what you're doing, you should rethink that thing. Now, I realize that doesn't work at all in national security. When it comes to national security, the other team is, your opponents are not being nice. So you want to use every tool you can if you're trying to protect your existence. But you can imagine a world in which full transparency could work. It's imaginable, but I understand why we were afraid of it. All right. So the dementia tapes, we'll see if those are released. I think I mentioned that Trump was being politically smart when he quickly accepted the 2 debates, but then he offered 2 more, which puts Biden in the position of having to reject additional debates, which Trump probably was never serious about in the first place. It's such a fun play. Like sometimes politics is just funny. I think it's funny that Trump bluffed him by offering 2 more like serious offers because they were based on a real media platform being ready to do it. But I don't think that Trump wants 4 debates. I think he just wants Biden to turn down 2 of them. So I keep telling you that Trump's campaign this time around is so flawless that you almost don't notice. Like you don't notice how good it is because there aren't any mistakes. So it's like they took the friction away or the contrast, I guess. If there was more contrast, like if you were doing some bad things, then maybe you'd say, oh, well, at least these are good things. But when all he does is the right thing, which is what he's doing, he's got the longest unbroken streak of no mistakes that I've seen in a long time. I mean, he is Trump is operating the chaos guy, the reckless chaos guy. He's showing you a communication discipline that's sort of unparalleled. I don't think we've seen it before. Anyway, if you add it to his, you have to put it in the context of his freewheeling, extemporaneous style, that he still is flawless. It'd be one thing if you're only doing scripted stuff. It's easy to read a teleprompter. But Trump is making all this work impromptu. He just sort of knows what he should do and goes and does it. All right. So I think that was funny. That was a good play. End Wokeness, an account on X that you should be following, tells us that in Erie County, Pennsylvania, government just gave $300,000 of public grants to non-white businesses. So if you were a white business, you couldn't get any of this, even though you might have been a taxpayer for it. So white-owned businesses may not apply. Now, here's a question I asked. Is there a DEI sanctuary state? Because I'm going to give you some career advice. It goes like this. The biggest thing you can do for your career is to go wherever your career is best suited. So, for example, when I graduated college, my undergraduate degree, I was in upstate New York. Not a ton of opportunity in upstate New York. But first thing I did was I sold my car for a one-way ticket to San Francisco. Because I knew in San Francisco, the Bay Area, it would be like the greatest opportunities maybe everywhere. Maybe best place in the world. I don't know. Could have been. And so I went there, and sure enough, things worked out, and I had plenty of opportunities. When I needed to change jobs, it was easy. Changing jobs was easy because there was always an offer, plenty of opportunities. So the number one advice is go where your odds are best. Now, if I were advising a young Black man or woman how to manage their career, I would say you should go toward a blue state, and you should go toward big companies, because big companies are just dying for more diversity, and they will discriminate in your favor. And they'll tell you straight up, we're trying to get more diversity. We'll do what we can, to make that happen. So if you're a Black man or woman in America, you should run toward wherever there are DEI programs, wherever they emphasize ESG, et cetera. That's probably true for any group that's not a white male. Probably DEI is, if you're a woman, et cetera. However, my best advice is if you're a white man and these programs are specifically designed to benefit everybody but you, really, everybody but you, you should go where the DEI is the least, wherever that is. Now, I would love to have some state, probably some red state, just actually declare itself a DEI sanctuary and say, if you come here and anybody does any DEI stuff, they're going right to jail. So you can live here, and if you're a white male, you can have the same economic opportunities that you would if there were no DEI. So, will I get canceled for saying that? Why not? That's exactly what I said that got me canceled. Except I said it in a way that you couldn't turn away. I said it in a way that would make your hair catch on fire, intentionally. I said it in a way that would make people really, really mad, intentionally. Do you know why? So you'll pay attention. It's a huge deal. It was completely worth getting canceled just to make a point. Have I ever mentioned how stubborn I am sometimes? Once I sink my teeth into something, I'm like a fucking pit bull. It's like, you can shoot me, but I'm not going to let go. And I'm not going to let go of this. Let me say it again. If you're not a white man in America, you should definitely go where the DEI programs are strong because they're there for your benefit. And that would be a good career move to be in a maximum DEI situation. If you're a white man, get the fuck away from all of that if you can. If you have any way to get the fuck away from it, get the fuck away from it. Same message. It's just math and strategy. Now, if you heard me say, hey, why do you say you don't like black people? I would say, who said that? I love black people. Where did you get that? Like, that's not part of the conversation. Were we talking about my preferences of who I like to hang out with? I love black people. Let me tell you something about black people. Black men, I probably spend more time with black men. Black men have a good sense of humor. I know that's racist, right, to make a generalization, but I definitely noticed it. Have you not noticed that? That black men have an unusually good sense of humor? Is that a bigoted statement? I'm not saying other people don't. I'm saying that it just seems like one of those weird things I've noticed. Now, I'm not sure if that's true of black women because I've spent less time with black women. But black men, if you meet a black guy, you're going to be able to have a laugh pretty much every time. Like, that's been my experience. So I always get along with black men for sure. Anyway, it's the same advice without the hair on fire. Elon Musk has been completely right about the risk of the birth decline. There's new evidence even making it worse. I guess there's a global alarm now. Countries like Japan, South Korea, and Italy, this is the Wall Street Journal's reporting on this, the birth rates have fallen to as low as 1.3. I think you need 2.1 to replace each other because it takes two people to have a little more than two kids, and a few of them die. So now experts believe that by 2050, many nations will face shrinking populations and workforce shortages. And the decline is all incomes, education, it's just everywhere. The decline is everywhere. Now, who is the person who warned you about this the earliest of people who are, notable? Musk. Elon Musk is the one who told you your big problem is not overpopulation, your big problem is underpopulation. Now, the reason I mention this is that he was right. He was also right when he built an electric car company, in that people said it would never work, but he made it work. He was right when he built a rocket company that people said, well, that'll never work, but it worked. And now he can send up multiple rockets and land them. And he was right about this. And this is really big. And he was right about it. So if he was right about all of these things, are you going to bet against him on the next prediction? What has he gotten wrong? And here's why. He's got another contrarian prediction. Here's the contrarian prediction. There's some people that think that we're going to need universal basic income in the AI and robot age because so many jobs will be removed. They need to give somebody just a basic income to stay alive. And Musk says that it'll be a universal high income, not basic. Now that is really contrarian because we're all thinking, how are we even going to survive? And then we say, well, at least maybe we'll get the basics so we can eat and maybe see a doctor, maybe get some shelter. But Musk is saying he's going completely the opposite direction, universal high income. How is that possible? Well, I think it is. In theory, your robots would be so productive that you could have a high income and that everybody could have everything they want. It's just that there will be a period where there'll be massive dislocation where people will really just be unemployed. And at that point, they probably need UBI. But if the robots are so efficient and AI is so efficient, it should make our economic situation 100 times better. If our economic situation on Earth is 100 times better, you could actually afford a universal high income for everybody. It's actually possible. But you have to get to something like 100 times more productive. Could we get there with AI and robots? 100 times more productive? I'm making up the number 100, but just to give you an idea of the argument. Do you think that's reasonable? Could we be 100 times more productive so that everybody could have lots of money? Yes. Yes. In fact, he convinced me. Musk convinced me. Now, partly the reason he convinced me is he was right about all the other stuff. If he'd been wrong about the other stuff, then I might say something like, maybe I'll go the other way. But I can feel this. There will be a one-time universal change toward robots and AI. So human civilization will only do this once, where we're building a superior intellect that we hope will work with us and not destroy us. So to imagine there could be 100 times gain in efficiency, which would make basically free money raining down on us forever. If you add fusion to robots and AI, fusion energy, which I think we'll get to, or even if you assume that the robots will be efficient at building new solar plants and gigafactories to store the energy for night, even if you just assume that all that's going to happen is the robots will build us more energy, you really could get to universal high income. I'm going to back him on this prediction. I think he's right about it. And if you think he's wrong about us being a simulation, again, look at his track record. He might be wrong. Probably not. All right, there's a report that an Iranian helicopter that allegedly carried the president of Iran and his leaders was lost in the fog. Lost in the fog. Oh, wait, there's an update. Now it had some kind of a hard landing. A hard landing. The cat is on the roof. Now, there should be an update even since I started talking. But the comments are lagging here. I'm going to reboot these comments because they seem to have stopped. Let's see if this makes a difference. There we go. Yeah, the helicopter's on the roof. All right, I got the comments back. All right, well, is there any update on that Iranian president story? Universal high inflation, maybe. All right, we'll wait on that one. But it does seem to me like Iran is trying to maybe soften the blow. Is it possible they already know he's gone? I don't know. We'll find out. I think he's with Kate Middleton. All right. There is an internal disagreement in Israel. I guess the defense minister, whose name is Gallant, which is just the greatest name for a defense minister. He wants, let's see if I got this right. He wants Netanyahu to have a day after plan. In other words, after the fighting is done, what do you do with the Gaza? And Netanyahu also wants a plan, but I think they have a different idea what it looks like. And it's not done. So let's see if I have this right. Give me some fact checks here if I get it wrong. I think the Israeli defense minister wants to put control of Gaza in the hands of the Palestinian Authority. because Israel has managed to coexist with the Palestinian Authority, and so maybe it just turns two problems into one problem, and maybe that's the best you can do, like in a practical sense. I don't know, but I could see why somebody would say, well, somehow we've been coexisting with everybody else. It's not easy, but maybe we can make that work. And then I think Netanyahu has some idea that's closer to getting a coalition of other Arab countries, such as Saudi Arabia and maybe Jordan or somebody, to help out administering Gaza. So I don't know that would work, because then the Gazans would not feel like they had something close to self-rule. It would just feel like instead of the Israelis, it's some other country ruling them. So I don't know if that would work, but it's not a terrible idea. And then I saw Joel Pollack for Breitbart. I don't know if he wrote this in Breitbart or just posted it, but his suggestion would be that, and maybe this is other people's suggestion as well, if you relocate half or more of Gaza's population to a new city on empty land in the West Bank, run by the Palestinian Authority, so that would agree with the defense minister, and let Israel annex all of Gaza and admit its remaining residents as citizens and end the conflict. Now that's interesting. If you did half or more of Gaza's population, move them to the West Bank, so maybe that part would not be too controversial, because it'd be hard to move everybody back to Gaza anytime soon. It seems like it'd be easier to build something on empty land than it would be to, reconstitute Gaza, because it's just so destroyed at the moment. So for practical reasons, it might make sense to put them somewhere nice in the West Bank where things could get better for them faster. I guess that would be the key. You want to put them where things could improve for them the fastest, the non-militant people. But do you think if Israel annexed all or part of Gaza, do you think that would stand? I don't know, that'd be a tough one. So they're all hard choices. I guess that's the bottom line. They're all hard choices. Helicopter has not been found. Oh, hold on. Look at one thing. Got a little update here. Iran president helicopter did crash, and not been found. So I guess I think we moved from it had a hard landing to it crashed. It has not been found. Drones searching for it. All right, I see an article here I'm going to click on. This is from Mario Knopfel. The drone efforts halted. Oh, due to fog. 2 hours since the helicopter carrying Iran's president reportedly made a, quote, hard landing due to fog, and no sign of the helicopter reported. So my question would be, since we assume that the people on the helicopter had cell phones, does that mean that there's nobody who could use their cell phone, or it could have crashed where there's no cell phone signal? There must be lots of places where there's no cell phone signal. So, but then there would also be no radio. So there would have to be no radio and no cell phone signals if they're alive. So the only possibility would be then, I've got a helicopter question to ask after this. So if the helicopter's radio doesn't work, that means there's a physical problem, right? Does anybody know enough about military stuff? Oh, here I've got another thing coming in. Let me see this. Some of the president's companions were able to communicate with authorities, raising the hope of survivors. Oh, that's not good. So if some of them were communicating, that seems to suggest that there's, some of them couldn't, right? 'Cause there's no scenario in which some of them would communicate unless you'd heard from all of them. I mean, even if the ones who could communicate simply handed the phone to the people whose phones weren't working, they're really telling us the cat's on the roof here. How long is it gonna take before, Israel gets blamed for this? Yeah. I think they just waited for fog, didn't they? They probably I mean, the people are gonna speculate about the cause, but if it was actually intentional, somebody was smart enough to rig it. Um, X reports he reportedly survived and that he died. So we're getting mixed reports on social media. Helicopters don't need to crash for people to die. Well, that's true. Yeah. I would think that a helicopter, well, yeah, we'll know in 50 years. Same people who killed Kennedy. It does feel like maybe it was the fog. If you have a situation where I believe the story was that some of the helicopters self-grounded because the fog was too bad. So it's sounding like a Kobe Bryant situation where maybe the pilot of one of them got ordered to do it anyway. Missile strikes don't leave cell phones working. That is correct. Yeah, that is correct. It does seem to me that if anybody is alive, it was a hard landing. That makes sense. Why fly in fog? The same reason that Kobe did. There was somebody important who said, "Take a chance. I'm willing to take a chance." And then so the pilot wasn't able to say no. Could be that. All right. Tunnels between Egypt. Yeah, there are many tunnels between Egypt and Gaza. Well, Egypt tries to close them. I don't know how good they are at it. All right. That's all I got for today, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to talk to the locals people privately. Thanks for all joining. And I'll see you tomorrow, same place, but locals hanging with me. It's just going to be us here in a few seconds. And everybody else, thanks for joining. Bye for now. And it doesn't work. All right. So remember the problem we had the other day where the button doesn't work to update the stream? We got that again. So we're not private. Everything I said is a lie. Everybody's still here. All right. Well, we're not private, so it's not special. 20 found so far. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I think I can turn off. Well, maybe I can't stop it at all. I might have problem ending this. We'll see what happens. Locals, I'll see you in the man cave tonight or tomorrow. It doesn't let me end it. So I've got that problem again where I can't end these streams. So I'm going to have to go to them each individually and end them. So let's see if I can end locals. All right. Locals is gone. Let's see if I can close these individually. Hmm. All right. I'm looking at you, Rumble. Do I really not have a looks like I don't have an option to end. That's weird. Why would I not have an option to end the stream? All right, let's try this. Okay, that didn't work. Let's try this. Okay, that doesn't work. Yeah, all right, well, I don't know how to end these streams, so they might run all day.